Next. So I spent 8 years doing the research and writing of the book Forbidden Archaeology. Next. So I regard that effort as part of my practice as Dr. Yoga. Just like Arjuna, he was a warrior, so he had to engage that under Krishna's direction. And it's a big part of our devotional practice. So I take it as part of my practice of Bhakti Yoga, my meditation on Krishna. Next. So when I'm in situations like the one depicted here, which is Google headquarters in Mountain View, California, I remember this statement from Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada's purports. Scientific knowledge engaged in the service of the Lord and all similar activities are factually Hari Kirtan, or glorification of the Lord. Next. So, really what I'm trying to do is simply excavate the love for Krishna that's buried in my heart under layers of material contamination. So, next. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this presentation. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Want to leave the remainder of the time for your questions. Or comments.
Hare Krishna. So, Prabhu, again, thank you for visiting Krishna Life and giving us an opportunity to ask these questions and hearing about scientific preaching in Krishna's service. I have a long list of questions actually, about like 6, 7 of them. So I'll probably ask a few and then see if others have, and if they don't, I'll continue asking some questions. My first question is, so the purpose of scientific, or this preaching of Krishna consciousness, presenting it scientifically, using pratyaksha and anumana that is in line with shabda. The purpose is to help people come to Krishna consciousness. But the scientific community, they're very opposed to anything that is what we call a shabda praman, means anything that's scriptural. Oh, this is said in scripture, and immediately they get turned off. What is the scripture? And so, and also Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and spiritual subject matters are beyond the purview of pratyaksha and anumana. So how can we use pratyaksha and anumana to establish faith in shabda when someone is intrinsically opposed to shabda and attached to pratyaksha and anumana?
Well, one thing is to point out that they have their own system of shabda, hearing from authorities. For example, they talk about their peer-reviewed scientific publications. It's not that every scientist, when he reads a publication of another scientist, goes to his lab and immediately tries to reproduce the experiment. They trust him as an authority. They accept a descending path of knowledge if they are really honest about it. So then it becomes a question of discussing the different kinds of descending paths of knowledge. What would an ideal one be like? Whose system of descending knowledge is best matching that ideal? You know, is it scientific publications that are later exposed to contain cheating and have to be withdrawn from huge scientific publications like Nature? Or is it these other truths? So, it's not that just we follow a descending path of knowledge, they also do. Now, another thing to understand is that person who said what you're saying, we don't accept any descending path of knowledge. Well, that's not completely true, because really they do. But even in terms of the conclusions that they reach, again, if they're honest about it, they will admit that what is being presented is the views of a group of recognized experts using their best current theories, their best qualified people as they consider it, their best evidence that they're able to accumulate, and they'll say this is not some absolute truth. It can change, it will change on the basis of, say,
New evidence.
You know, so there are a lot of things that can be done. And the only reason that I have for doing this, I didn't invent this idea of doing this. It's an instruction that has come down through the disciplic succession. You know, like I said, I'm a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He wanted this done. My interest when I joined Krishna consciousness was to serve Krishna by writing. And I really liked, you know, working on those books, you know, coming back, you know, about the science of reincarnation and chant, be happy, you know, chanting Hare Krishna. I mean, our basic philosophy, you know, I didn't have any plan to do what I eventually got into. That just came about, you know, as part of that desire. But that was expressed by Srila Prabhupada. He wanted some of his disciples to confront these issues and deal with them.
How do you, what answer do we have to the argument that the scientific community makes when we tell them that you do not have perfect knowledge? Prabhupada would make this argument that your theories are constantly changing. But this is something they're actually proud of. They feel that yes, we do not claim that our theories are perfect, and there will be improvement, there will be revision, and this is a good thing. Where Srila Prabhupada spoke of it as being imperfect, and therefore we should take information from Shastra. But they seem to be proud of this. So how do we answer that argument?
Well, in our path of knowledge also there's humility. You know, there's, like, even Lord Brahma, the most intelligent, he says he can't comprehend everything. So we're also in the same position as in saying that we can always improve our understanding. I think I mentioned that yesterday a couple of instances of that, you know, like yata, shrutam, yatamati.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to explain things, you know, carry out this order to try to explain these things and come to a proper understanding based on whatever intelligence Krishna has given us and what we've heard through disciplic succession and from the Vedic literature. So we're also, you could say, humble students of the universe, of the truth. You know, like, you know, it's, you know, something, I think Jiva Goswami wrote in one of his Sandarbhas, I think it was Jiva Goswami, said, I trust I haven't made any mistake or anything. So the transcendental scientists like Krishnadas Kaviraj, you know, you look at the writings, there are many expressions of humility. You know, not being able to access the whole of the absolute truth, but just hoping to get a drop, a taste of the drop of the nectar of devotion. So, again, have like Lord Chaitanya, when he was discussing with Prakashananda Saraswati and the Mayavadi sannyasis and Varanasi, he took the humble position, you know, and then, you know, when asked why he was chanting and dancing instead of studying Vedanta Sutra, I said, oh, my Guru told me I can't comprehend these things. Of course, he went on to explain Vedanta Sutra in a way that converted the sannyasis. So, we can also take a humble position and not say, okay, we or I understand everything, and you know, we have to carefully understand the meaning of Shastra, and and it gets back to the point I was mentioning before. They have the same type of problem that they're accusing others of. You know, say, oh, you're just relying on blind faith in the statement of Shastra. You know, they're relying on blind faith in their current expertise and their previous acharyas. Next. And I'm just giving my point of view here.
Can I have a question? Thank you for the wonderful exposition. I heard you initially in 2004 when you came to Seattle and gave a presentation to some of the Microsoft employees. This is a long time ago. I used to work there myself. So my question is related to what Vishnu Chitta Prabhu asked, but at a more fundamental level. I was talking to Somaka Prabhu, who is in the back. He works at the University of Illinois, Michigan, and he's both a teacher of art as well as administrator for an MBA program there. It looks like the predominant theme is either atheism or inclination towards Islam in the scientific community. Like they present atheistic ideas and Islamic ideas more so than Vedic ideas. And that's historical, right? I mean, there's been a lot of funding to drive that kind of an activity in the academia today, whether it's Harvard, Yale, and we are laggards to the game. So, any thoughts on how we can influence the society, although we are way behind the curve?
Um, Well, it's not just a question for me, it's a question for our whole movement. But, and as I've said quite a few times, our efforts in this area are much like our efforts in all areas in which we're trying to expand the Krishna consciousness movement, where we haven't conquered the world yet, but we've done something. We've done something to introduce aspects of Krishna consciousness, whether it's prasadam or some other aspect of it, like our intellectual program. So that's going on. And there are things going on in the Krishna consciousness movement that go way beyond my efforts. Just like, say, many people in the world of Krishna consciousness, they're now becoming aware of the book distribution that's going on here. With something they may not have been aware of, but now they're becoming aware. So there are things going on in our movement. We have, as you see, I've been around for a long time. I started doing this kind of service in the 1980s, and there was the 1990s, 2000, 2010, 2020, decades have gone by. And the situation now is different than the situation when I began doing service in this area. At that time, there were maybe a handful of devotees who were involved in this type of effort. And it's very much, practically, they were all outsiders in the sense they had no positions within the academic or scientific world, even though they may have had PhDs. They would have PhDs, but they wouldn't be working at a university or some scientific institute. So now there are literally hundreds of devotees with scientific degrees in the sciences, and they're becoming attracted to the Krishna consciousness movement and to different branches of the Bhaktivedanta Institute, like the Bhaktivedanta Institute for Higher Studies in Gainesville, Florida, has attracted dozens and dozens of very well qualified devotee scientists, astrophysicists, cognitive scientists, others, and they're putting together a very sophisticated approach to things. I mean, myself as an outsider, my approach is one way, but if one is actually, I can say anything I want. Nobody can hold anything over me. I can speak whatever I like, but if someone has, in addition to the knowledge, some position of influence, some some position within, the scientific and academic world, then they can be even more influential. And I think that's happening now. For example, there was a conference on consciousness studies held recently, and a team of devotee scientists who have been working in cognitive studies, consciousness studies. They've been doing their own research in past life memories, the effects of the Hare Krishna mantra meditation from the medical and psychological point of view, and they were regular participants at the conference. It's a more influential position. So there are, somehow or other, over the decades, maybe one or two names have become, identified with science and Krishna consciousness. But there are now many devotees whose names you would know, who are doing very wonderful things in this area. So I think that will gradually become known. Yes. Oh, okay.
I have a question for you that came up after your class yesterday. You were talking about Mahavishnu when he sleeps, when he inhales, all the universes expand, and when he exhales, then the universes come back in, right? Like while he's sleeping. So if that happens over and over again while he's sleeping, what happens when he wakes up?
Well, his sleeping and our sleeping are a little different. It's called a state of yoga nidra. He's dreaming. He's an expansion of Krishna for a specific purpose. Krishna is always awake, playing with his eternal associates in the spiritual world. Mahavishnu is there to perform a certain function, to manifest the material elements and make arrangements for their training, you could say, to get them qualified to be where they really belong as part of this eternal pastimes. So it's kind of a different sort of purpose. I don't have an exact Shastric statement that I can give to verify that. But sometimes he does. I think when Krishna and Arjuna go through the layers of the universe into the spiritual sky and visit, I think it's Mahavishnu, right? They interact, they talk. Krishna's unlimited. He can have one manifestation in Yoga Nidra, another one, an expansion of that expansion, talking to Krishna and Arjuna. In the Rasa dance, he expands into thousands of different forms to relate with each gopi. Or in Dwarka, he expands himself into 16,000 forms to be with each of his wives. So it's a little different, but for this purpose of manifesting the universes, it's stated that he is in that state of yoga nidra, which is maybe something like what some people call lucid dreaming. You know, that term is used, like Srila Prabhupada said, that the whole material cosmos is like a dream of Mahavishnu. So, anything else on that? Oh, up here.
Yes.
Prabhu, you don't seem to hear so much about scientists creating life from chemicals, at least not in popular culture. I know what they're saying in scientific circles. But the big mania now is we're going to create human-like intelligence, even human-like consciousness through a sophisticated computer algorithm under the rubric